My partner, male 40, and I, female 39, dated in college. Our relationship broke down after we accidentally got pregnant with our son, teen, and we only found out when it was too late to do anything about it. Neither of us was ready to be parents financially or emotionally, but I, as the mother, had no choice, so I stepped up. I'd like to stress that I loved my son from the moment I held him. It was a terrifying pregnancy when I didn't feel ready. My ex left, and while he did pay state-mandated child support, he had zero contact with our son. Recently, he got married and his wife must have discovered that he has a son out there. Suddenly, he wants a relationship with my son, and I say my son because the only times he's seen my son is at court visits regarding custody and child support. Initially, his parents bothered him, so he agreed to weekend visitations, but never visited. My son had a good relationship with paternal grandparents. My son expressed curiosity about meeting his father, so I allowed it. My ex wasn't abusive or a morally bankrupt person, so I had no issues with them having a relationship. But my son was very disappointed after a few visits at how disinterested my ex was. Apparently, it was more his new wife who was grilling him about his childhood, school life, and my relationship with my ex. My son wanted to meet with them again to get his feelings off his chest and tell my ex never to contact him again. After that visit, my ex threatened to go to court over parental alienation, saying he would only back off if I agreed to send my son to family therapy with him and his wife. I spoke with my son about his father's desire for them to work things out in family therapy, but my son doesn't want to do it. He says he doubts his father gives a crap about him and he thinks the new wife only cares because she's worried he'll be a bad influence on their future children. This isn't a legal question. I'm 99% sure my ex has no case because my son is a teen now and of how long my ex went without seeing him. But am I the idiot if I didn't put more effort into making my son go to family therapy with my ex? Is this something a teenage boy might feel resentful about if his mother didn't push him more to reconcile with his father when he grows up? Not the idiot. At his age, he's old enough to have the decisive vote regarding his health and mental health. But your ex should go and find the cause of why he abruptly turns into a psycho nut job with a lawyer after so many years of no contact. I can't imagine after all these years an ex suddenly cares about his son. His parents knew all his contact details. Let your ex go to court if he wants, he won't get anything out of it. I think it's the new wife that's pushing for all this rather than the ex. If the new wife is worried about consequences regarding their future children, she shouldn't have married a man with children he never sees. That's on her. OP, please let your ex stand up before a judge and argue that you have alienated his teen son, whom he had never met, through his own choice. Then update us because we'd all appreciate the laugh. I mean, what does your ex-partner want you to do? Physically drag him to the car and into a therapist's office? Take away his privileges until he complies? Your ex only cares because this makes him look bad to his new wife. A new wife wants to build a family and have kids of her own, and your ex, having abandoned a child he knew about for over a decade, is a bad look for what kind of father he'll be to their children. It's not about your son at all, which makes it even more gross. OP, you're a good mom here for listening to your son. A friend of mine from college is getting married at a destination I dreamed of going to for a long time but was totally out of our budget. Her uncle owns a resort and has offered amazing discounts on rooms to her guests. We've had this planned for months, RSVP'd, booked a room, arranged childcare, everything. Now my husband's brother wants to get married the weekend of my friend's wedding. They're not doing anything, just a quick ceremony and party in my in-laws' backyard. It will be more like a family barbecue than any kind of actual wedding. My husband wants to cancel everything so we can be in town. I don't want to cancel for the reasons outlined above. We've been in an argument about it. I suggested that his brother could just move it to the weekend before or after. They don't have to be out-of-town guests, a wedding venue or vendors booked, or anything that would stop them from being able to move it so my husband and I can attend. It's just pure stubbornness. My husband isn't backing me up on this and has been talking crap to his family about me, which I hate. He thinks I'm entitled. If his brother had a real wedding planned for months and involved a ton of time and money spent, I'd feel differently. But as I said, it costs them nothing to just change the weekend. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. How on earth are you being entitled? You RSVP'd yes to your friend's wedding months before your brother-in-law announced his wedding and your husband went along with it. You made financial arrangements and have booked childcare arrangements, and you're supposed to renege on that because your brother-in-law decided on a whim to get married? And he expects you to cancel all of that to accommodate him? He's the one being grossly entitled. But your husband is the biggest idiot in this situation. He's failing to support you to his family and actively crap-talking you to them. To me, that's unforgivable behaviour. You should go to your friend's wedding and leave your husband home. He will deliberately make sure you don't enjoy yourself during what should be a great time. Then he can enjoy his entitled brother's barbecue. She flat out says it's not a real wedding. She describes it as not an actual wedding. She puts wedding in quotes. You are the idiot, OP, for repeatedly making comments about brother-in-law's wedding not being a real wedding. It is, in fact, a real wedding. A destination and fancy resort doesn't make a wedding a real wedding. You're the idiot for demanding your brother-in-law change his wedding date to fit your schedule. His wedding is not your wedding. Genuinely curious, OP, if you'd RSVP to the brother-in-law's backyard wedding first, and then got this dream destination wedding invite from your friend, would you still feel so insistent on attending brother-in-law's wedding, as you'd already agreed to that first? Don't lie to yourself. I was on your side until you said brother-in-law's wedding wasn't a real wedding. Then you became a huge elitist idiot. Look, she doesn't mean his wedding isn't a real wedding. She means his poorly planned event that was scheduled at the last minute without considering the availability of supposedly key guests who already had prior commitments in another country that the family now expects them to cancel happily. I mean, your marriage is real and just as valid as anyone else's, but if you got married in your living room, that wasn't a wedding. That's just a marriage ceremony. What the brother is doing is not a wedding. It's also a marriage ceremony. Your judgment is a little harsh since OP meant her brother-in-law had nothing solid booked. Not that the wedding wouldn't be real. I, 22 male, live at my parents' house while I job hunt. It's been rough living under my parents' roof for the first time in 4 years. One of the biggest things we argue about is my diet. So I've been on a body transformation journey since early April. Since then, I've dropped from about 190 to 160 as of this week. I'm 5'10". I've done this by doing a lot of cardio, weight training, and most importantly, calorie and macro tracking. I buy my groceries, cook my food, and I'm entirely self-sufficient when it comes to my diet. I ask nothing of my parent other than time to use the kitchen so I can meal prep. My parents aren't supportive of this. They think what I'm doing is unhealthy and dangerous, which it isn't. Partially because they've struggled with weight loss and see my way of doing it as extreme, this causes contention. My dad always talks about how he never did what I do when he was a Marine and in the best shape of his life. My mom always says I'm too skinny and need to eat more, which is typical mom behaviour. We argue a lot since they just can't mind their business about it. Tomorrow is my grandmother's 94th birthday, and as much as I want to go, I don't feel comfortable for 2 reasons. The first is that it's a 3-day trip out of state to see her, which means I likely won't be able to stick as strictly to my diet or workout routine as I need to. The second being is that I know I would feel pressured to eat my family's food. It's all like Southern comfort food, so some of the most delicious food that will make you incredibly fat. I know my aunts and uncles will make me feel bad and constantly try to convince me to eat, and I don't want to deal with that pressure, plus the temptation since I know the food will be good. So I said I wouldn't be going. I explained to my parents why, and they weren't happy. My dad said I was being ridiculous, that I couldn't take 3 days off from my diet to see family and that in the long run 3 days wouldn't hurt. I told him that 3 days would ruin a week's worth of progress that I needed to make. I don't like taking cheat days because they always make me feel worse about myself, and because currently I'm still too fat to have a reason to have a cheat day. My mom told me I was being selfish and that this could easily be my grandmother's last birthday. I told her that other people weren't attending in person and would FaceTime her to see her and speak, and I could do that. They said that wasn't acceptable, and since I could go, I needed to go. I said that if I did go, I was just not going to eat for 3 days straight and that I didn't want to do that, so I wouldn't be going. I also mentioned that they don't know how to commit to weight loss, so they should stop lecturing me on what I need to do for my body. We reached an impasse until they left this morning and I didn't. I talked to my brother about it and he told me I was being a huge idiot and I needed to go see them and apologise to my parents. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. As they said, this could be your grandma's last birthday. This could be your last opportunity to see her in person, to hug her, to feel her presence. Don't miss that. Also, no one is going to be forcing food down your throat. Choose small portion sizes, and even good Southern comfort food includes veggies. Lastly, your parents are right to be worried because skipping events due to being afraid of the food that will be offered is a sign of disordered eating. Being around food and being able to make good choices is one thing. Isolating yourself to avoid food is another. Agreed, and the fact that at 160 he thinks he's still too fat to have a cheat day is concerning. Not wanting to break a lifestyle change because you like it and how your body functions is one thing, but overcompensating is another. It sounds like OP could use some therapy to help him cope with the feelings he has around food and his parents. Dude, if you can't stop for 3 days for a significant event because the food will make you fat, then your program is too extreme. In 40 years, you won't regret missing 3 days of your diet, but you will regret not being there for your grandmother's birthday, perhaps her last. Consistency is vital, not perfection. And please don't turn dietary and gym stuff into your personality. You'll end up lonely if you don't balance the people in your life. Don't take those around you for granted. No matter how important your diet is, get your priorities straight. I gave birth to my daughter a few days ago. I have 3 stepkids. There's James, male tween, Amanda, female tween, and Chris, male pre-tween. All of them are great kids and I've been in their lives for 6.5 years. We have them every weekend, rotating holidays, as well as a few extra weeks during summer break. The issue is that they all just started school and obviously with that comes a crap storm. Like Amanda refuses to stop sharing hats and headbands with her classmates, as in comes home with new headwear damn near daily because she and her friends switched for the day, and has gotten a bad case of head lice. This has always been an issue with Amanda. Every single year she gets head lice because of this issue, and she refuses to stop sharing a hat, so the cycle continues. This is no fault of her mother or the school. She's been told several times that this is unacceptable, and we're tired of buying lice treatments just for her to get lice again. It goes in one ear and out the other. So right now, she is loaded. Her mom has done 2 treatments alone since school started, and Amanda's hair is just as bad as when it began because she just refuses to stop taking and wearing her best friend's hats, who always have head lice. So I've started refusing to let her near the new baby. I don't want the baby getting head lice. She already has a lot of hair. This is mentally destroying her. Her words, but she still refuses to stop sharing headgear, so I will continue this until her head lice are under control and until she sees the importance of what we tell her. As for Chris and James, they hold the baby often and it really messes with my stepdaughter's head because she isn't allowed to touch the baby at all. I feel utterly terrible about it because I love my stepbabies and I want my stepdaughter to be able to hold and love on her sister, but I don't feel comfortable given that she won't stop sharing and spreading head lice where? Am I the idiot? My husband is definitely getting angry at me and has all but given me the cold shoulder, but he hasn't said anything thus far. Her bio-mom is on my side and thinks maybe it will teach her that she can't do this anymore. Bio-mom also has been tiptoeing around shaving her head, honestly. My husband is the only one not on board with that. We've asked the school to minimise her interactions with the friend in question, but there's only so much they can do given that they have recess together. Not the idiot if your husband is the only one not on board with chopping our hair off to help control the situation when other children are affected, then he should be the only one treating it and picking the nits out. When he's the only one having to deal with it and pick the hair and the child screaming because it hurts, he'll be ready to cut it off. Agree, put your husband in charge of the lice treatment. My niece kept getting head lice and bringing it to my house, so after the second time, I would inspect her head before her mom left and send her back home if she had head lice. My sister-in-law was so insulted by my actions. I said if you would take care of the problem, we wouldn't be standing outside with me inspecting your child's head, now would we? She took care of it by finally properly cleaning her house and linens and keeping her daughter away from the neighbours who always had head lice. Honestly, she shouldn't be allowed in your house and her brother should be treated each time she is because even one louse that gets on them can infest everyone. The solution is to treat her with the ultimatum that the next time she gets lice, she gets shaved. And for the love of God, someone needs to tell the best friend's parents to treat their child. My mom named me, teen male, Cassian after her mom, my grandma, Cassie, who died when mom was 7 years old. My grandpa remarried after grandma's death, and my mom and her stepmom never had a good relationship. My step-grandma tried, but she was always insecure and jealous that my mom thought so much of my grandma and never saw her equally. Mom and dad wanted to name their kids after people they lost, so I was Cassian after Cassie. My step-grandma always had a visible dislike for my name. I remember being 4 or 5 and she tried calling me Tommy. Thomas, Tom, Tommy are in no way part of my name, so it always seemed weird. I don't remember how long it lasted, but it was long enough that it stood out to me as happening for a long while. She cringed whenever someone called me Cassie or Cass for a nickname. I didn't like her doing that, which made me dislike seeing her and Grandpa. She stopped with the Tommy stuff for a while and then tried to get away with calling me Bertie. I told her I didn't like that and she needed to call me Cassian or Cass. She told me she'd like me to have a different nickname and I said no, I didn't want some random name as my nickname. Grandpa asked me to compromise and I told him they could call me by my name or I would tell Mom. Mom didn't hear this stuff typically. The most recent time she did this was 2 years ago. I decided to say screw them in my head and now I haven't spent any time with them since. Mom never really visited, but now she always makes excuses for them not to visit. We only see them now during family functions. Grandpa contacted me a few days ago and asked me if I'd come to stay with them some weekends. He said my step-grandma was feeling abandoned because it was apparent none of the grandkids were interested in spending time with her, and he thought it would be nice for me, as the oldest, to set a good example and help them out. I said no. He told me I could do this small thing for them, and I owed them that much. I said I owed them nothing when she constantly disrespected me by calling me a different name and refusing to listen when I said I didn't want to be renamed with a nickname. He said she's my grandma, and I said no, she's not anyone's mom or grandma, and she's still bitterly jealous that grandma hasn't been forgotten, and that's not our fault. He told me I was being disrespectful, and I could hear his wife in the background. He called to tell my mom, and she backed me up and told him to leave me alone. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, your name is Cassian. If she wanted to give you a nickname, she could do what everyone else does and use an actual nickname. Sweetheart, honey, lovely, etc. Not a new name. How is Bertie or Tommy even close to Cassian? If she resents your name, that's for her and her only to deal with. You can't just rename someone because you don't like it. Your name is yours. She has absolutely no right to change it. Sorry you're going through this. Cassian's a lovely name too, by the way. Some adults have some very strange ideas about what disrespect by kids is. Sadly, your step-grandma is going about things so badly when she likely does want to be a part of her husband's family, but it's entirely on her and her disrespect of your name that you don't want anything to do with her. You're right, you don't owe her anything. The audacity of some people. I would block both of them.